The Philadelphia Eagles are headed back to the Super Bowl, people. You heard that right. There is no edit wrong there. The Eagles beat the 49ers last night and are headed back to the Super Bowl. Trending in the AM and the celebration on DSM begins in 30 seconds.
Holding, gets around in front. And Philadelphia has it.
And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. We're live, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. It is Victory frickin' Monday. Bang, bang. The Eagles are in the Super Bowl, baby. They are going back. I can't believe it. It's fantastic. It's a great morning. A great morning. Make sure you drop the like and subscribe on the DSM Media YouTube page as there is no agenda in the show. I didn't even know Mark was joining me till 5 minutes ago. Mark wanted to have a little fun for 10 minutes and just celebrate. This is
absolutely.
We're just going to talk about how great of a moment this is for Philadelphia. I am your host, Phil Stiefel. Drop all your comments, thoughts, questions, anything you got in the comment section. I got Mark Moscatelli joining me for the first 10 or so minutes. Good morning, Mark. How does it feel to say the Philadelphia Eagles are in the frickin' Super Bowl?
It's a glorious time to be a Philadelphia sports fan, let alone a Philadelphia Eagles fan. Fantastic job yesterday by that team. They were great yesterday. They did everything right, and they listen. You don't like to see anybody get hurt, but they smashed two quarterbacks, and they just showed them who really was the superior defense. They've given up 14 points in two playoff games. That is really significant. It really is. And I had put out on Facebook, I might have tweeted it out too, that listen, you know that I'm not a Jonathan Gannon guy. And honestly, what he's done these past few weeks and in the playoffs is something that we have never really seen in a while.
Jonathan Gannon, he dropped the little nugget of information there in the post game that he isn't going anywhere. I don't know if you caught that.
I did catch that
while you were running around the park half naked, celebrating. The news cameras chose not to show up, but Jonathan Gannon did say last night, "I'm not going anywhere." I love it.
And you know what? I'm happy about that. Let's give him another season, and he is going to end up being a head coach because listen, they all these owners, they're like, let's go offense. Yeah. What got the 49ers and the Eagles to this championship game? It has a lot to do with defense, and DeMeco Ryans is probably going to get that head coaching job for the Texans, and I think he's going to do a really good job down there, provided that he has the front office support that he's going to need. But yesterday, watching the game,
defense wins championships is what always been the saying. And yes, it's a passing league, it's an offensive league, but you gotta have a damn good. Like the Eagles are opening 2-point favorites right now, and that's probably because the Eagles' defense is favored against the Kansas City Chiefs' offense so well. So defense. Jonathan Gannon. I mean, it's excellent to see. What they've done.
No, it is, and their game plan going into that game, obviously, was to get to Brock Purdy, and that was the right move. You have a rookie quarterback, first time in the playoffs in the NFC Championship game, a late round draft pick that is essentially the third stringer. Like you could say all you want, hey, he's playing really well, and he was, but. This is a big game, and if you get to the quarterback, they're going to make mistakes. In this case, they got to Purdy and they hurt him. It's a shame. I hope he doesn't have a torn UCL, because that would really, really suck for him, because he was probably going to take the starting job away from everybody in San Francisco. I have, you could hear it. I don't have a voice.
You're hoarse.
I'm very hoarse.
Good.
I'm
going to find a way, everybody. So stay tuned and make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube page. It's a great plug. There is a video on Mark's Facebook page of him shouting and screaming. I will find a way to steal that video and post it on the YouTube page as a short. Guarantee I will find a way to get that up there.
Go on your TikTok. I tagged you on a different one. If you could, okay. You and DSM Media, a little different. No profanity.
Mark's got TikTok. Man,
I do. I just follow stuff. I don't actually TikTok stuff, but I thought it was necessary to do one last night. But going back to the game plan, get to the quarterback, rush the quarterback, and that's what they did the whole game. I mean, they obviously did knock Purdy out, and then again, Josh Johnson. You see it in his eyes. He was scared, and he was ill prepared, and rightfully so. Like, are you going to give your first string snaps at all for the NFC Championship? If he had 5%, that was probably going to be a lot. And he was lost behind the center, and he had that huge fumble. And Hassan Reddick was just all over the field, wrecking havoc, whether it was Johnson or Purdy, or if Garoppolo was healthy and was going to play. I don't think their quarterbacks had a chance at all.
It's crazy to say, and Casey's coming here, Purdy didn't have a chance even if he stayed in. Reddick has been playing out. Is it crazy to say? I mean, Howie Roseman had like an amazing offseason, obviously building this team. The A.J. Brown trade, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, all these guys that Howie Roseman brought in, restructuring Fletcher Cox, bringing in Joseph and Sue, which have now made Fletcher Cox fresher for the Super Bowl run. Is it crazy to say that Hassan Reddick was the ultimate move of this offseason? I mean, he literally hand carried the defensive line that had the worst sack number of all time last year, like 20-some sacks as a line, to now being the second greatest defensive line sack number of all time. I mean, it's crazy how one signing can make that big of a difference on a defensive front.
They flipped the switch there. They did, and he's the cornerstone. He's there 3 years. I mean, we got more of this.
At 3 years, at 50, like it was like $52 million. So basically,
for fish cake, dude. For fish cake.
Top tier defensive ends, top tier pass rushers get $15-20 million a year, and he got him at a steal.
Yeah,
steal. He wanted to come to Philly. 3 years, 45. There you go. Thanks, stat man.
It was a great signing, and you talk about the teams. This team is infinitely better than the 2017 team, and it's built to go a little bit further. I think it's infinitely better. You can't be covering.
Stop dropping in the coverage. You might have 25 sacks.
And you might not be wrong there. But going back to the strength of this team and where they're at today, this team is infinitely better than the 17 team. Absolutely. I'm going to say it's infinitely better than the 2014. They have their weapons are a hell of a lot better than what they had on that team. They had Owens and Westbrook and not much else. And Donovan.
They didn't have a leader on that team. So I brought up, I don't know if it was with you or Jason earlier in the last couple of weeks about, comparing, like, going from all the drama between McNabb and Wentz to having a quarterback in Jalen Hurts that even if he didn't improve the way he did, there is no drama. I said it on Thursday or Friday's show. I'm like, yes, this is the championship game, but this is business as usual for the Eagles because, that's what Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni has them doing. It's next game. There's an ultimate goal, and there's no drama. And I think it's great that's what separates this team from that McNabb era is the no drama. It's what separates this team from Carson Wentz's drama. Mm-hmm. There is no questions who the leader is and what the ultimate goal is. There's no stats on their mind, no awards that are on their minds. It's one goal.
It's if they've learned from, like, hey, these are things what not to do. The drama, like, there's no room for that on a football team, because it would. Football is the ultimate team sport, and if you got a couple guys that are just rabble rousers or me guys, that did this, it could really tank. You could have all the talent in the world, but this could really tank. And honestly, if you look how some of these teams have been constructed post Terrell Owens, and I love that guy. I do, but a lot of it, like you said, is built on who are your leaders, who's going to gather the guys together when things go astray. We've got some really good leaders here, and I don't know if you've seen some of the locker room speeches from Jalen Hurts. That guy he might be 24, but his maturity level is like at a 50. I mean, he is really, really mature beyond his years. Smart guy, does all the right things, says all the right things, role model, and those guys will go through a brick wall for him.
It was nice to see Hurts crack a little smile yesterday.
A little bit
of a smile, but he did say on the sideline, you see him say, one more. There's still one more. And KC, you must have missed it. I had a whole show last week talking about Jalen Hurts being the Mamba mentality, the new leader of Mamba mentality in this day and age. I think it's spot on what you're saying there, because I did a whole show on it, because it's damn true. He's got that attitude that Kobe Bryant had that just made Kobe Bryant special. Jalen Hurts, look, for all the detractors, whatever, nobody foresaw the jump he took. Some of us were more confident than others that he could do it, or at least improve. But there's a lot of people never doubted those intangibles, and just knowing who the leaders are, like you said, Mark. I mean, it's extremely, extremely, extremely important.
It is, and it feels too fun.
I'm not locked in this morning at all.
So,
this morning.
I'm working today. Today is payroll day. I get a lot of time off requests for the next couple of weeks. I have a team of 15 at work. Mm-hmm. I have already, and I've approved them because I'm a good supervisor. I have 6 people that requested the day after the Super Bowl off. So I'm going to be working, but a third of my staff will not be. So
yeah, I mean, I'll be working Super Bowl Sunday. I'll be working the day after the Super Bowl, but I guarantee, win or lose, the day after the Super Bowl, I will not be at 100%. Day after the Super Bowl, we'll be here 8:30 a.m. as always. I can't guarantee. I mean, I'm not at 100% this morning, but I've got the excitement of the reaching the Super Bowl kind of carrying me through. So there's so many narratives. Whenever you got to log off, you log off. There's so many narratives in this game that we have now. But I want to address. I bring up all these additions. Bringing up James Bradbury. I mentioned Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, A.J. Brown. Bradbury was another. I'll still say secondary is important to D-line success, but D-line success is important to cornerback success as well. So there's no right or wrong answer on what the biggest move that Howie made. They all played contributing factors. It's just Hassan Reddick the last 4 or 5 games has wreaked so much havoc that's what's in the forefront at this moment for us.
He gave a Hall of Fame performance yesterday.
Absolutely.
And if you saw, I was focusing in on the defensive line. I had never seen a more focused team. Like they were so hungry. They were like literally foaming from the mouth. If you saw Hassan Reddick on the sideline, he had the spit and slobber coming down his face. Like they were after them.
Well, that still comes down to the fact that they take the disrespect that they've been. We've talked about the disrespect on this show since day one. Philly's always disrespected. They're always the clickbait city with the media. They take that personally, the players. And none of the national media people were giving the Eagles much of a chance. Everybody was hyping up Brock. The whole narrative was that this Brock Purdy guy was going to come into Philly. It was going to be no big deal, and he was going to win the game. Well, even if Brock Purdy doesn't get hurt, they weren't winning that game that way.
No, there was no way they were going to lose that game. There was no way the Eagles were going to lose. It just wasn't going to happen. Now, how they won the game, Phil, I got to be honest with you, I was a little surprised. you had a very, very, very good 49ers defense that did not allow big running games. They just didn't allow it. So I thought they were going to throw the ball, and I thought that that at least early on they did those like little dump offs and those little slants to act as the running game. And then they just started pushing the ball with Miles Sanders and Kenny Gainwell, and Boston Scott had another touchdown. And then late in the game, Hurts had a couple really big runs. They ran for 148 yards yesterday.
Yeah. I mean,
against the best team and the best defense and the best run defense in the league. They manhandled them. And they got so frustrated. You could see all those stupid penalties their defense had, one right after the other. And you can say that stuff about the refs are in for they're favoring the Eagles. I didn't see that. I saw a very frustrated team that manhandled teams all season, and all of a sudden they couldn't do it anymore. And stupid penalties, and then Trent Williams just went off. Get that guy out of here.
The other guy that was punching the ball, get him out of here. Look, it just goes to show. I've been talking about it since the day I started podcasting. You win in the trenches, and Hassan Reddick and that Eagles offensive line, that's what won the game, because you win in the trenches. Having superior people like that. Something made me think of it. I just want to put this up on the screen for a second, Mark. Just take a look at this, on the screen. Just remember this, guys. When we talk about disrespect, just remember this. This wasn't like week 1. This was like week 14, 15 that this was put up on the screen. This is the disrespect I'm talking about. But guess what? The Eagles are in the Super Bowl.
Where do they get these analytics from? Dollar General? I don't understand. And Phil, going back, Philadelphia, the city, its sports franchises are constantly shit on. Constantly. We're not as big as New York. It makes
for good stories. It makes for good clickbait.
Yeah, we're always that redheaded stepchild, and I'm kind of tired of it. You have a Phillies team that went the distance and didn't seal the deal, but they had a really good season. You have a Sixers squad that is absolutely on fire, and I'm going tonight, and I can't wait.
Man, that game on Saturday, that game they dominated the Denver Nuggets. It was amazing.
Embiid took Jokic behind the shed and had his way with him. I mean, he was, and PJ Tucker shut him down, man. That was awesome. And now you have this Philadelphia Eagles team is going in their second Super Bowl in 6 years. They've built this franchise from when Laurie bought them in '94, and they had the vet and the bubble, and it was shit facilities, and free agents didn't want to come here. And he's built it to a point where
it's the class act of the NFL. Class act of the NFL.
It's got to be a top 2 franchise in the NFL. It's not the best.
What was Joe Banner's term? The gold standard?
The golds. We made fun of those guys when he said the gold standard, but shit, man, it's the gold standard. And they do everything right.
I want to bring the comment back up on the screen. All in the Game UK. Hey, I appreciate you checking in, my man. All show. This really annoyed the hell out of me. The fact that the NFL on Fox announcers the entire game would not let this play go. Whether it was a catch or not by Devontae Smith is beside the point. That is on the 49ers coaching staff for not challenging the play.
Correct.
And Nick Sirianni addressed it after the game. That was high football IQ from Devontae Smith, knowing there was a chance he didn't catch it, getting the team up there to the line of scrimmage quickly before that they could review the play. So, all this constant, there's so many people, media, Twitter, everywhere. Everybody, they didn't win. They wouldn't have won the game if that play was called back. You know what? It wasn't called back. In the record books, it was a catch. And that's all that matters. That is on the 49ers. It drove me freaking nuts. They literally mentioned it 10, 12 times in the game.
Correct. Absolutely. It was gamesmanship, Phil. I mean, how many times do you see that when it's a questionable call, you rush to the line and you want to run that play? And that should be a sign for Kyle, like throw that red flag because something might be up. And he didn't do that. That was a bad.
If you want to say that the philosophy on how instant replay is used, and coaches are worried about losing a timeout, or you only get X amount of challenges a game, so they have to kind of judge when to use them. Sure, you could discuss that in the offseason, but the rules have been the rules for how long? And the coaches know what they got. The NFL teams, they have guys, multiple guys that literally sit in a box somewhere, and their only job is to signal down to the coach, yo, throw the red flag.
Mm-hmm.
They have multiple people in a room. That is all they do. That's on them. That is not on the Eagles. That is not on the refs. That is not on anybody. That was a tough judgment call to make there, and they called it. That's on the 49ers, and the announcers literally dropped the ball by spending so much time talking about it, and it really, really pissed me off.
And I agree with you, Phil. And the other thing that kind of pissed me off too was the punt that hit the wire for the guide wire for the camera that should have called the play dead and do a redo. And they said, well, we don't have visual evidence. When you punt the ball, especially when it gears towards the sidelines, the refs have to look in the air for the goddamn ball to see where it goes out of bounds. So so somebody didn't do their job there.
But you know what? But you didn't hear the announcers spending the next 45 minutes talking about how that changed the outcome of the game, because it didn't. The Eagles, because of the leadership of this team, because of the smart football, didn't let and still don't let any of the mistakes or any of the problems. You never see them get too low or down on themselves. Never too high and smelling themselves. That's the difference. I mean, on a side note, we got 2 weeks. We might want to find a new punter for Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, I'm not. I hope Aaron Sipples put them back.
How much would that break Kern's heart? He gets cut for Super Bowl,
dude, like
he's some other guy off the bench because, dude, he's so bad.
Because
that's the reason why he was cut earlier in the year.
Well, I mean, early on when it was like 7-7, things weren't going away. It was a game of field position, and he wasn't helping. He wasn't helping. So there's a reason why he wasn't on a roster this year. He's out of gas. He's like a 10+ year veteran. I mean, I think he's had a couple Pro Bowls under his belt. But he's yeah, man. Like I'm really hoping that Aaron Siffis is
we all hated Aaron Siffos, and now we want him back because this Kern kid is not a kid. This Kern dude is not cut. So, look, you can win or lose a Super Bowl. In special teams, we had what's his name? The guy that won the MVP as a returner.
Desmond Howard. Desmond Howard. When you got Scott Norwood missing the field goal, those are things that can happen. The other concern, Phil, I'm going to bring up. Jalen Hurts before the game said, like, I'm not going to lie, my shoulder hurts. If you looked at the plays that were called again today or yesterday, he didn't really go deep that much. He didn't stretch the field. He threw 25 passes. He threw less than 200 yards.
He was off. He did throw 4 or 5 deep balls, and he was a little off on them. He was a little long. He didn't have the same touch that he usually did. It seemed like he was trying to place the ball instead of just throwing it up there and letting his receivers. Even there was one to Quez Watkins, and there was another one that he was a little short. He was long on a couple passes.
He was long to A.J. Brown. That should have been a touchdown.
And he was short. To Quez Watkins, he was short. If he leads Quez Watkins out more, Quez Watkins doesn't have to come back to the ball. He could just run under it. So there is a little bit of concern there, but everyone's going to be talking about the 2 weeks off to get Patrick Mahomes' ankle better. But we've got 2 weeks off to continue to get Jalen Hurts healthy. So I don't want to hear it. I'm not worried about Jalen Hurts' shoulder at all. I would be more concerned with the Lane Johnson injury.
Dude, he balled out yesterday too. Supposedly he tore his groin again. He retore it, but again, he's going to have 2 weeks. Well, I mean, listen, duct tape, rub some Robitussin on it. It's
some thick paper rub, some bobby pins, whatever you put on there. Some super glue.
Keep this comment up from my dad. He's absolutely right. This team they're going to do what this man should have done multiple times during his time with the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's why I'm so angry. And that's why I don't like the man. Like, he had 14 opportunities, half of which he had a very, very, very good squad and could not seal the deal. Yesterday, they almost lost that game yesterday. They almost lost. Had they not had that penalty, I think that probably would go into overtime. And honestly, Joe Shiesty would would have made it happen for those
Hold on.
guys.
Can we just admit that there's a little bit of Andy Reid hate in the Moscatelli household?
There's a lot of it.
You might have blinders on a little bit.
There's a lot.
What you said is right.
Listen, big picture stuff.
Damn good football coach.
Phil, big picture stuff. He was the greatest coach in the history of the organization and really helped the Eagles get to an elite type level. But he had 5 chances to get to the Super Bowl and win. And he honestly, Phil, he failed miserably. When it came time for him to seal the deal, he failed miserably. And we should have minimum 2 Super Bowls under his that 2002 team, because they would have walked all over the Raiders.
Here's the thing, though, Mark. That's the difference between that era and the current era. Even dating back to the Doug Peterson regime to an extent, because it kind of sort of fits in there. It's the leadership on the field. Andy Reid was not the Nick Sirianni rah-rah coach. And there's a great article. I forget who wrote it. I saw Ed Kratz shared it out last week about the new era style of coach. There's no more prim and proper coat and tie, focused. The Andy Reid, the Mike Holmgren, that era of coaching is over. The new era of coaching is the Nick Sirianni, where he's holds you accountable, but he's also high-fiving you, chest bumping you, keeping the energy in the right way. And between that and the fact that you have Jalen Hurts leading the team versus Donovan McNabb on the field, no diva. There is no diva there. That is the difference between why Andy Reid's teams fell. And these teams right now, you have Jason Kelce, Lane Johnson, 2 Super Bowls in 5 years because of the leadership that they provide to this team. Fletcher Cox, throw his name in there too. There's so much to a leadership, the difference between leadership from 04 era to now. So much. And I think that goes without saying that, to an extent, is more important than just pure talent.
Yeah. Great points, Phil. You talk about these players are in their early to mid 20s. They're Generation Z. I believe that's what they are, Generation Z. And you have a guy like Sirianni who is at the tail end of Gen X, probably beginning of millennial. Like,
I don't know what age group falls into which one. I don't even know what I am. So
you're Gen X, Phil. You're Gen X. We do all the work. We pay all the taxes. We do none of the complaining.
There we go.
But there's something to be said. You got some of these older guys that have done things a certain way that it doesn't work. Things like that don't work. I see it in my job today. I have to manage people a lot differently today than I did 10 years ago to get them to be productive. And, I'm not going to say I'm Nick Sirianni, but I'm a little bit of a rah-rah guy. And I ask them every week, what are your wins? What are your wins? I mean, the same. And if you fail, then we got a problem. But we're going to handle it privately. We're not going to do it out in the open. Right. We're not going to say any of the wrong things. We're going to handle our business. And, Sirianni turned out to be a phenomenal hire again. Lurie knows how to hire head coaches. I think it's, he had the one swing and miss.
Back to Ray Rhodes. Not a damn – I mean, he did take us to the playoffs.
Ray Rhodes was coach of the year his first year.
Absolutely. He had 2 winning seasons here in Philly. Chip Kelly had 2 winning seasons here. So for the problem wasn't the Chip Kelly era. The problem was when they gave Chip Kelly personnel decisions. Mm-hmm. And he obviously bombed there. But, you bring up Jeffrey Lurie. I mean, let's just give him a round of applause again. I mean, it's really – yep, we do have sound effects. There we go. Round of applause for Jeffrey Lurie. Because the gold standard starts with the top. You're comparing yourself to Nick Sirianni to extent the way you manage your team, but your boss gives you the right to run your team that way, and his boss, the owner of the company, gives your boss the right to let you. So it starts at the top. Everything trickles down.
Culture. It's all about a culture.
I would venture to say that Jeffrey Lurie is probably one of the best sports team owners in the world. Like, I don't know much about the soccer clubs over in Europe, but I know there's which ones are the big ones that have consistent success. The Man U or the Man City, whatever, and Chelsea and those kind of teams. The Eagles are up there with the class act of all organizations across sports. I mean, class act. Never any problems. You don't see the, there's always problems with the Steinbrenners back in the day, whether they were good people or not. No one ever questions Jeffrey Lurie. I mean,
Well,
the organization, the community involvement, the way this team is always competitive year in and year out. They are class act, top to bottom, across the board. And again, we're going to give it a second round of applause. This is the Jeffrey Lurie. I love it. I love it.
how far we've come with this organization, really. Phil, I got to close. I got to actually go back to work, and I have to do payroll to make sure my team gets paid this week, this Friday. I just want to close.
You get paid one day late.
I just want to close that this has been a phenomenal football season. It's been a phenomenal run. I enjoyed every second of it. I enjoyed being on the shows with you guys. I can't wait to do the show after the Super Bowl, because that's going to be a great show, because we're going to win. My predictions will be out a little bit later next week.
How you feeling right here as you're about to sign off? The initial line was Chiefs plus 1.5, and within 1 minute, it swayed to Eagles plus 2. So, like, literally, as soon as the lines dropped, everyone dropped money on the Eagles underdog, and now the Eagles are the favorite. Early initial feeling. How you feeling?
I think they win this game.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's going to be easy. I think they win this game. And I posted on Facebook, and you might think I'm nuts, but I don't think I am. I said that Jeff Lurie has to hold an emergency meeting with all his leaders and just lay the groundwork then that under no circumstances is this man, this big red jolly guy in Kansas City, is to beat our Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, all kidding aside, you're going to win the Super Bowl, but there's something out there like it didn't end well there, and I'm sure he's very friendly and cordial with Andy, but at the end of the day, these owners are egomaniacs, and they got to win this game. They have to win this game because everybody and their mother want to show Andy, like, hey, this can be done, and this should have been done multiple times during your watch. You didn't get it done. We're taking withdrawal.
I'll let you leave here, but the difference is that the old era, the Andy Reid era here, we expected disappointment in these big moments. This Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts team, we don't expect disappointment. We expect results, and 9 times out of 10, this current crop, this current organization delivers on that. So that's a big difference there. Expecting disappointment, and we don't feel that expected disappointment anymore.
Not anymore. We're at the pinnacle of this franchise right now, and I don't think there's no turning back to go back to where we were.
There isn't.
Great game, Phil. Hey, thank you for having me on for 33 minutes, not 10.
Yeah. I mean, that 10 minutes flew by right there.
Have a great day, and I'll catch up with you. Go Birds.
Go Birds, everybody. All right, Mark jumping out now, and we're back. And I want to touch on that piece for a second. The expectations and the gut feelings of this org. I mean, literally, in 2000s, early 2000s under Andy Reid, Donovan McNabb, we expected that disappointment. Like, yeah, we got to the Super Bowl the one time. We were in those championship games. But in our gut, we're always like, bad things always happen to us. But now, even in 2017, I mean, it was still kind of newish. We didn't really know what to trust and whether to trust, Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson. We liked Doug Peterson, but we didn't know. We still had that doubt in our stomach. But now, after winning that Super Bowl in 2017, it kind of changed. And now with this Nick Sirianni regime, I expected them to win last year against the Buccaneers, even though the Buccaneers outclassed us. I expected them to win games. Hell, I predicted 15-2. I still got my chart somewhere tucked away right here. I predicted 15-2 before the season started. I predicted Eagles, Raiders. I got the right conference or the right division that our opponent was coming from. That wasn't just blind fandom, my predictions. That was having confidence in this regime, not having that gut feeling anymore that bad things were just going to happen because we're the Eagles, just because we're Philly fans. I don't have that bad feeling anymore. I'm going to look at the X's and O's of this Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl. I'm going to make a logical prediction off of it. We're going to break down the matchups, the X's and O's. We're going to try to get reporters on here. All these things. But it really comes down to that gut feeling that if this team, and Casey said it before somewhere along here, where was this comment? Anyway, I can't find the comment now, but basically he said it. We can only beat ourselves. And that's, there it is. We can only beat ourselves. And that's how I feel about this team. As long as they play their game, as long as they, don't make their own mistakes, this team can beat anybody. And it's such a different feeling to have. And just across Philly sports as a whole right now. I mean, the Phillies in the World Series, yeah, they came up a little short, but that Phillies World Series run, the Union made it to the MLS World Cup. Yeah, again, they came up short. The Eagles are now in the Super Bowl. The Sixers, 20-4, they're on another 7-game winning streak. Their second 7-game or more winning streak in the last month and a half. Second seed in the Eastern Conference. The tides are changing with the Sixers. And we got a tough schedule coming up. We're going to spend some time talking Sixers this week. We will. We got 2 weeks to break down this Eagles Super Bowl. We will get back to the Sixers talk this week for a little bit. Maybe even tomorrow we'll spend 20, 30 minutes talking Sixers. But the tides are changing. You notice I left the Flyers out of the equation. I don't even still know what's going on with our Philadelphia Flyers. After the season's over, maybe I'll put up with what's up with the Flyers and maybe find some time to talk about them. But the tides are changing here in Philly. And we don't expect bad things to happen. The gut is our teams and our organizations have changed their culture and philosophies. And we expect good things to happen. And when they don't happen, it's disappointing. But we expect it. We expect good things. And honestly, we're jumping way ahead. We've got 2 weeks to break this game down. Just to Casey's point, we can only beat ourselves. The Eagles are favored against the Kansas City Chiefs right now because they should be. And there's going to be so much that goes into it. Mahomes' health hurts his health. Our defensive line, can they get after Mahomes? Can Mahomes avoid the rush that is obviously the best in football with Philadelphia? Our secondary, they don't have big weapons on the outside. Scantling, he's nothing special anymore. Juju Smith doesn't really live up to the hype. Can we stop Travis Kelce? That's going to be a narrative that's going to be talked about, all week long, all 2 weeks long. The Kelce versus Kelce narrative, that's going to be talked about nonstop. The brothers. I don't even know if brothers have brothers ever played in a Super Bowl against each other? I don't even know. Probably at some point. But you got two studs, two stars playing against each other in the Super Bowl, brothers. That's another narrative that's going to be there. You got the Andy Reid narrative, coming back to face his old team in the Super Bowl. Kyle saying it's the first time brothers have played. I trust my statistician right there. That's a narrative. The Andy Reid narrative. I know Mark and Ed, the Moscatelli household has some deep down hate for the Andy Reid name. But there's still a storyline there. There's all these storylines going to be there. But the only thing that could stop the Eagles from hoisting another Lombardi trophy is themselves. And you have to have that gut feeling that Nick Sirianni, Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie, Jalen Hurts, the leaders of this organization, the top tier people, are going to have us focused for 2 weeks. They are not going to let the outside noise and distractions cause any distractions. The Kelce parents. Well, I saw a funny thing, KC, literally 5 minutes before we went on the air. I don't even know if this is true, but it was a joke that somebody put out there that the Kelce parents prefer Jason because he's provided them with grandchildren and Travis has not yet. So they lean towards Jason. They like Jason a little bit more than Travis. So even the Kelce parents are Birds fans this week. So, again, I don't know if that's true. Someone tweeted that out as a joke. But I'm going to roll with it. And why not? Why not roll with it? But there'll be just continually all these narratives all week long. But if you go up and down the charts, obviously Patrick Mahomes is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts at this point. But Patrick Mahomes' ankle issue is a bigger issue. Oh, Kyle's saying the Flyers are 10-4-2 since the new year basically started. Are they anywhere near the playoffs? Even remotely close? I don't know. What happened to my screen just now? I don't know what the hell just happened. There we go. We're back. I don't know. No, they're not near the playoffs. So 10-4-2 does not get you close to the playoffs. That's how bad they were. Patrick Mahomes is obviously a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts, but that ankle injury kind of slows him down, kind of brings him back down to Jalen Hurts' level. I'm more concerned about the ankle of Patrick Mahomes than the shoulder of Jalen Hurts. The Eagles' offensive line will dominate. I know the Chiefs have one of the best in football at blitzing the quarterback. And for some reason, his name's escaping me. He led the league in sacks this year. Why can't I think of his name? Let me pull up their box score from yesterday. That's how I'll find it. Yeah, where's his name? I can't even do it. Frank Clark, is that it? Yeah, is he the guy that gets all the sacks? Yeah. No, he's not the guy. Who's their big guy that gets all the sacks on the defensive line there? Anyway, our offensive line is better than their defensive line. Our wide receivers are clearly better than their wide receivers. Tight end, yeah, Kelsey's better than Goddard, but it's not that as big of a deal as people think. Our running trio, man. Again, Miles Sanders, great game yesterday. I'm surprised at how limited he was used yesterday. Only 11 rushes yesterday. I'm telling you, I said it after last week's game. You're starting to see the changing of the tides. 14 rushes for Gainwell to 11 for Miles Sanders. I mean, this team said Chris Jones. That's right. 15 and a half sacks. So I thought he had more than that. I thought they'd said he had more than Reddick in the telecast yesterday. You're starting to see the change of tides. I mentioned it last week. The Eagles are starting to show their love for Kenneth Gainwell and how he's probably running back one on this team next year. You mix in Boston Scott. I mean, yeah, there's 44 rushers yesterday. 2 of them were Gardner Minshew kneel down. So 42 rushes yesterday to 25 passes. You're starting to see the Gainwell love. So Gainwell, Sanders, 2 touchdowns yesterday. Boston Scott, that trio versus Panchero. I don't know if I'm saying Panchero right. Who I love him. I love them coming out of college. They're starting to use him right. He's very effective in their offense right now. And McKinnon, those 2 guys, they're used right, but they're not the same as Sanders, Gainwell, and Scott. Yeah, I really think he was more versatile, especially in the pass game. I mean, he really finds a way to get out of the backfield, get a chip on his edge or whoever his assignment is, and then find an open spot out of the backfield. Gainwell also, to me, hits the hole faster. Miles Sanders has kind of got that. If you remember Le'Veon Bell, he really made it famous where he would just kind of hesitate and wait till the hole open and then burst through it. That's kind of what Miles Sanders done. He hesitates a little, not hesitates in a bad way. He's patient. He's a patient runner. But that doesn't always work when you've got these big behemoth of an offensive line guys that are just pushing forward. There's always holes. Miles Sanders doesn't hit the hole quick enough. Kenneth Gainwell does. He gets the ball and he just runs. Now it helps to be smaller like he is. And as small as Kenneth Gainwell is, the defensive lineman and the linebacker sometimes can lose him. Gives him the opportunity to get out in open space. But Gainwell's shown something. Gainwell, I was down on Gainwell before the season and at the start of the year. And obviously Miles Sanders had a fantastic season. And I'm not taking anything away from him. But you're starting to see the changing of the guard. And you're starting to see and realize what this team feels about Kenneth Gainwell. And I would not be surprised come Super Bowl Sunday when we look at the box scores the day after, when we're celebrating the Eagles win, that we're talking that Kenneth Gainwell outrushed Miles Sanders again. Now, there is also the theory maybe that knee is still not 100% for Miles Sanders. Doesn't seem like he's running with the brace anymore. But obviously that hampered him at the end of the season. But yeah, I mean, the running back room, really the only 2 things that the Chiefs have that are better than what the Eagles have is Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. And they're so great that those 2 X's on their side elevate them. And I'm going to be scared. It's going to be a crazy close competitive game. And the Eagles offense is going to have to put up 40 points probably to have a chance to beat this Chiefs team. But I don't have that feeling in the gut of my stomach that everything's going to go wrong and we're going to lose. And why is that? Because the culture in this Eagles organization has changed. Bad things don't always happen to us. And please, somebody from Kansas City, go into Philly and put a Chiefs jersey on Rocky. Please. That curse is going to live on forever. If you mess with Rocky, you lose to the Eagles. That's basically the way it is. Look, up and down, everybody had a good game yesterday. We spent some time with Mark. I had some ideas on what I was going to talk about today, but up and down. I don't want to hear the narrative or the excuses of, knocking out the quarterbacks. Purdy couldn't throw the football. Purdy couldn't throw the football because our front got after him and knocked him out. Josh Johnson couldn't be in there because we knocked him out. I'm going to give Kyle Shanahan, a half of a round of applause. Great coaching job on his part this season as a whole, being able to go from quarterback 1 to quarterback 2 to quarterback 3, and in your championship game, having to go to quarterback 5 and your emergency 5th quarterback at one time. That's great. That's tough for any team to overcome. But I don't think the final outcome of this game would have been any different if Brock Purdy was in there and able to throw the football. And if he didn't get hurt on that sack, he still would have been sacked 3 or 4 more times. We only had 3 sacks. I saw someone say, a 49ers fan or a national, I don't know who it was. They were just not Eagles fans. Say that Vaughn at pass rush only had 3 sacks yesterday. I don't even know if that's an accurate number. Was it 3 sacks? I saw somebody say this. Yeah, we had 3 sacks yesterday. Obviously, 2 by Reddick. Yeah, we only have 3 sacks because they didn't throw the ball for 90% of the game because they had no quarterback. You can't get sacks when you're handing the ball off every time. Now, I will say Kyle Shanahan. I will say that Kyle Shanahan, probably should have done something different. He probably should have gone right to Christian McCaffrey right from the get-go if Purdy couldn't throw. Maybe you got a better chance of some kind there. And just having Purdy in there handing off when you're down 3 scores is probably not the way to go. But hell, our awful run defense still held them in check. We knew it was coming, the run every single play. We still held them in check. Christian McCaffrey is an elite player. We held him in check yesterday. 3.4 average as a team. It was 5.6 average for McCaffrey. Held him in check. People are going to just keep hyping up Brock Purdy and that if he was healthy, that they would have won this game. No, we outmatched them. Every facet of the game. Exactly. 100%. Everybody's going to talk about the other side of the equation, but no one's going to talk about this. I don't want to hear nothing. The Eagles want to chip with a backup. Take the loss. Look, people aren't talking about the fact that, we didn't make excuses in 2018. Was it 18 or 19? When it was 2019, when Carson Wentz gets hit in the back of the head by Jadeveon Clowney and knocked unconscious, and we had to go to Josh McCown, and we obviously lost that game to Seattle. We might have made excuses that day, but we moved on. That's what you have a backup quarterback for. That's why Howie Roseman values the backup quarterback, and the Eagles organization values the backup quarterback so much. It happens. That's what happens in football. Injuries happen. It's not an excuse on why you lose. It's just not. Now, it happens. I get it. But saying that the outcome would have been different, you just don't know that. And again, Kyle Shanahan had his hands full this year. Proved to be a very viable head coach. And why he's so good with the amount of quarterbacks he had to rotate in there. And that 49ers defense is really good. And DeMeco Ryan deserves the head coaching job that he's probably getting in Houston. If you remember back in the day, when we were looking to replace Jim Schwartz, I said to DeMeco Ryan, go get him because he's going to get by somebody. I also said that the 49ers probably wouldn't let him go. He was their linebacker coach. And I'm like, yo, let's go get him. But he stayed, whatever. And he proved to be a very good defensive coordinator. Now he's going to get a chance at head coaching. And as I said at the beginning of the show, Jonathan Gannon dropping that little nugget that he's not going anywhere. I don't know what else Jonathan Gannon has to do to prove that. I got into battles with somebody yesterday on Twitter because I was sticking up for Jonathan Gannon again. And yeah, I didn't always stick up for Jonathan Gannon, but I've seen the light. I've realized what he's capable of doing. And it just keeps pulling out, well, he got destroyed in the Washington game and had a bad game plan in the Washington game. Dude, we're 16 now? So we're 14-3 in the regular season too. 16-3 in the Super Bowl. Sure, you could pull out that Washington game that he had a bad game plan in. Sure, we gave him a 9-minute drive to the New Orleans Saints, but we only scored 10 points in that game. Yeah, Dallas got 40 points against us. Sure. 3 times he got beat. The rest of the year, he dominated and had the number 2 or 3 ranked defense in football the entire time. So I don't know what else Jonathan Gannon has to do to prove his value to this team or this organization or this fan base, but he deserves it. And to an extent, he deserves that head coaching opportunity. And if he doesn't get it, like he said he's staying here, that might have just been the hype and the emotions of just clinching a chance to play in the Super Bowl. No, there's still a lot of jobs out there that are available. But if he doesn't get it, if he doesn't get that job this year, there's no doubt that he will next year. And he's just going to continue to be in that coaching carousel circle of interviews until he gets an opportunity. Shane Steichen didn't really have his best game. I think some of his play calling issues came down to Hurts' shoulder. Eagles D had 7 quarterback hits and 18 pressures. And that was running the ball 97% of the time in the second half. Once you lost Josh Johnson. And they still hit the quarterback every single time they could. Jonathan Gannon deserves it. Shane Steichen, again, some of his play calling was questionable, but again, I think there's something there with Hurts. Hurts did have one run earlier in the game where he took a big late-ish hit, on his shoulder. You could tell, you could see him wince a little bit when he stood up. He's going to be banged up. But you're not going to hear excuses from him about it. I don't know what they've got to do this week. I don't know what the practice schedule is going to be like this week. I'm sure it's going to be similar. I'm sure they're off today. I'm sure Jalen Hurts on his day off is in the office watching some film or working out. But I'm sure they're off today. I'm sure they'll have walkthroughs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm guessing they're not going to have any padded practice this week. Knowing Nick Sirianni's style, it's going to be a very, 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 very light schedule this week for them. Because that's what he's done. He's kept these guys healthy and fresh. And I criticized it. Well, I didn't criticize it. I questioned it in the offseason, whether Nick Sirianni's style of softer practices and less hitting was going to pay off. Outside of Hurts' shoulder and Lane Johnson's groin, we're a healthy team in the Super Bowl. So it's worked. Look, I don't know what it's going to be like, but whatever it is, you need to spend this entire week injecting Jalen Hurts with whatever you got to inject him with to make sure he's as close to 100% as he can for Super Bowl Sunday. And just like Mark said earlier in the show, whatever you got to do, if you got to get some Gorilla Glue to hold Lane Johnson's groin together for the Super Bowl, you do it because you need to. You need to. So, yes, the Eagles are in the Super Bowl. Yes, the Eagles have proven all the doubters wrong. Yes, Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni have proven all the doubters wrong. I don't even know what else to say the rest of this show. Dickerson update. No, I have not heard a Dickerson update. A lot of those injury updates normally come after the game, like the initial updates. But I think everybody was celebrating way too much, and the press conferences weren't quite as detailed as they normally are. I'm sure we'll get an update today or tomorrow on Dickerson, and that's a huge deal. If Dickerson can't go, Andre Dillard as your left guard, I mean, he's filled in admirably, but come on, we're not going to be as confident in our offensive line, if Andre Dillard's got to go on Super Bowl Sunday. But if there's a way, if it looked like his arm got bent, you see a lot of offensive linemen play with braces on their arms, especially guards that are in the interior, that you're not as stretching out as much as normal. I'm sure Dickerson will give it a go. I will say, when we drafted Landon Dickerson, I brought it up. The first show I did after the draft. I mean, he had 4 straight years in college where he got hurt either in the last week or the last game of the season. Like season-ending type injuries. They were all knee and ankle injuries, I believe, but he does have a propensity to get injured occasionally, Landon Dickerson, which is great that he's not our center, of the future. He's a guard. Easier to replace a guard than a center. Looked like a torn muscle issue. Yeah, I thought it was either a torn muscle or a hyperextension of the elbow, whatever. But you can play with that. You can wrap your arm up with a brace of some kind and just manage the pain a little bit there. It's the freaking Super Bowl. Everybody's gonna. What's his saying in Zombieland? It's time to nut up or shut up. That's basically what Landon Dickerson and Lane Johnson and Jalen Hurts have got to do. No, it's gonna be so fun breaking down and continuing talking Eagles every single day this week and next week. Never had this opportunity as a content creator, as somebody on the last time they were in the Super Bowl. I might have had 4 followers on Twitter. I might have logged on to Twitter once a month. This is going to be a blast. It is going to be a blast as we march. And like I said, we've got other things to talk about. Obviously the Sixers, red hot right now. Red hot. And and Mark's going to be at the game tonight. I am going to be talking Sixers tomorrow a little bit. Cast and brace and get his butt out there. We don't want Andre Dillard out there for the whole Super Bowl. Definitely not. Definitely not. We got so much to talk about this week. It's going to be so much fun. Next week, we'll get into the X's and O's. I'm going to hunt down Chiefs reporters. I'm going to try to get some Chiefs reporters and content creators on. I've got one of my very good friends, Grant. He's a Kansas City Chiefs native, fan of the team, diehard. We were texting back and forth last night, nonstop. I'm going to try to get him on for a little bit. I'm going to try to get some of the fans of this show on here for a little bit in the next 2 weeks. This is what it's all about. This is what this is what this show is all about. Having fun, and we live for these moments here in Philly. We live for them. So I'm going to wrap it up right there. Today's Trending in the AM. Again, as always. Also, should Eagles winners look for Fletcher Cox? Yeah, absolutely. Why didn't you put Jason Kelsey's name in there? And Lane Johnson. There's literally 4 locks for Hall of Fame or borderline locks for Hall of Fame. Lane Johnson and Jason Kelsey are lock Hall of Fames. Cox is a lot closer than we realize. Brandon Graham maybe is the outside shot there. There's a lot of Hall of Fame talent. I didn't even get to talk about the crazy thing I want to say, and that's Devontae Smith is greater than A.J. Brown. I love A.J. Brown. He's elite. Devontae Smith might end up being, he might be a better wide receiver than A.J. Brown, which is crazy. Crazy. Graham, Lane, no doubt about it. They are locks already. Okay, maybe they are. Brandon Graham, it's borderline lock, but there's a damn good chance, especially if he's got a second Super Bowl. Casey agreeing. I'm hoping you are agreeing with me saying Devontae Smith is greater than A.J. Brown. I hope that's what you're saying. That's a conversation we're going to have this week. And this is not me questioning A.J. Brown like I did earlier in the season, because when I questioned A.J. Brown earlier in the season, he went off for 160 yards the next game. I'm not questioning him or his talent or his focus or anything. I'm just saying Devontae Smith, that dude's a baller. And he knows how to protect himself. Everybody questioned his size. So we're going to have a conversation this week on Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe that'll be the jumping off point of tomorrow, depending on how the Sixers look tonight. We're going to talk Sixers tomorrow. I guarantee it. But we're also going to be talking Eagles. Yes, Devontae Smith. That's right, my man. All right, we're wrapping it up right there. Trending in the AM on DSM Media. Again, if you're watching this on replay, please make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button. I'd greatly appreciate it. Drop your comments. I will go back and read them all. I respond to them all. If you want to comment or hit me up on Twitter at Beard of Knowledge, I always appreciate it. Shoot me a follow there on Twitter as well. On Instagram, on TikTok, it's at Beard of Knowledge on all social media platforms. But again, like and subscribe, turn notifications on. There's going to be so much content on DSM Media over the next 2 weeks because the Eagles are in the freaking Super Bowl. You don't know what kind of interviews we're going to have. We're going to try to find as many people to come on this show, random times, all over. So make sure you turn those notifications on and like and subscribe to the channel. I am your host, Phil Stiefel, as always. Thank you to Mark for joining me. Again, before we go off, I'm just going to remind everybody, ESPN put this out late in the season that the Eagles had the least chance of these top 4 teams of making the Super Bowl. The least chance. And guess what? The Eagles are in the freaking Super Bowl. Yo, fly, Eagles, fly. Go Birds. Jalen Hurts is elite. Yo, we'll be back tomorrow, 8:30 a.m., trending in the AM.